Okay, now you have your strips, your large strips, and they're going to look like this. So you have 9 of those, and the last thing we need to do before we can start braiding is cut the ties that are going to hold the scarf together. And the ties come from the sleeve of the shirt. And you can choose whatever color tie you want to do. I generally think the darker colors look better. But you just cut off the seam of the sleeve, and then you cut a pretty skinny strip, probably about 1/2 inch, just like you would cut the bottom of the shirt for the loops. So you get something like this, and then what I do is it's a loop, and you need it to be a string. So I just cut at the seam, just right down the center, and it makes it a string, and then I pull that just to make it skinnier. So you only need 2 of those. You can get them from the same sleeve. So I'm going to cut my second string. It's a loop like the other one. I'm going to make it into a single strand by cutting it at the seam. So I cut it at the seam, and I pull it just to kind of tighten it up, make it kind of skinny. Okay, so now you have all your supplies ready to sort of start the scarf making process. So this is what you should have. You should have the 9 strips and the 2 strings. And before we can start, we have to stretch each of the larger strips. That's what gives us the kind of like dread-like looking. You just kind of don't pull them hard, just kind of make it so that they're soft and stretched out, because you can overstretch them. I just kind of bounce them and move down, because you'll get seams in them if you just pull in one area and don't kind of move around. So you're going to stretch every single one of your 9 strips, and these strips are what we're going to use to braid and make the actual scarves. So I'm just going to keep stretching these. And you use the same size t-shirts because it helps your loops to be similar in size, so that when you go to braid you don't have one loop that's way longer and it's uneven, because then you run into problems. But you can never get them exactly. Okay, just 3 more to stretch. And if you want to make a lot of scarves, sometimes it's easy just to cut up a lot of shirts, a lot of different colors, tie-dye shirts, different things like that. You just can't do shirts with prints, but you can do shirts with prints, but you can't cut into the print. It messes up the loops. But sometimes it's easier if you're making a lot just to cut a lot of these strips and stretch them all at once, and then you can make several scarves at a time. That way you don't have to go through the process each time. Okay, so now I have stretched all of these. So we have all of our strips that are ready to be made into a scarf. So we have 9 strips. We're going to be doing 3 for the braid, then the rest of the 6 are going to be the loop part. So what I like to do is to kind of pick out the ones that are the most alike in size. So I just put all the strips up on my hand like this and kind of just measure them out and pick out the ones that are most alike in size. It's going to make them easier to braid. And I'm doing one of each color in the braid, but you can do whatever you want. Okay. So these are the extras. These are going to be the bottom of your scarf. So for right now, you can just kind of put those aside. And then you have your 3 different loops that you're going to be using in your braid. So 1, 2, 3. And they're kind of all similar in length the next step is you have them all together like so. You're going to take one of your strings and you're going just to tie a really, really, really tight knot to hold them together, just like that. And I don't do a double knot at this point. I just do a single knot. Okay. So now that you have a single knot, you're going to have to anchor yourself to something to braid or something or someone. So I'm going to kind of scoot over and scoot this as I braid. I'm going to anchor myself to my quilt rack. Doesn't matter. You can do, you can use anything. You can use a stove, a microwave, a chair, a person, like I said. And I just tie it in a bow. That way it doesn't get knotted. Okay, so I've anchored myself. Then you're going to just do it like a braid. So you get each color in one hand. So I have each color. You start from the top and you just start braiding. Just like you would your hair. You can braid it as tight as you want or as loose as you want. And you just keep braiding all the way down. Like I said, just like hair. Try to keep it as even as you can. Just take it all the way down. Okay, almost to the bottom. Okay, so now we're getting to the bottom where we have 3. So what I do is I just braid them as tight as I possibly can. And then when I get to the very bottom, I kind of just loop them tightly. And then stick my finger through all 3 like that so that they're all 3 together. Then you take your other string, the one from the sleeve, and you stick it through all 3 like so. Then you tie a knot just like we did at the top. And you tie that really, 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 really tight. Okay, so now you can de-anchor and we can move to the actual connecting of the rest of the materials. So now we have our braid and we have the 2 strings that we made. And they're tied off very tightly. You can even put fabric glue there if you want to make sure that it's not going to come loose if that's what you want to do. Okay, then you have your additional six loops. I like to kind of intermingle the colors a little bit. That way it's not all the same. Okay. So then what I do is I just take this whole thing and I kind of just lay it like that. So you have a loop here, the loop here with your thumb, and I lay that on the ground. Like so. Then I take my braid and I kind of like lay out how I'm going to do it. So it ends up looking just like this. Just like that. I'm going to use these loops that I made to connect the scarf. So you just take one underneath and then you have the one string over on top, this string. And all you're going to do is loop it and then tighten it, just like so. So it's been looped, so I'm about to tighten it right here. You just pull it as tight as you can. And it's going to go in together. And at this point I will double knot it. So this is basically what it should look like at this point. It's now connected. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and do the other side exactly the same way. Tie that and tie it very, very tight, as tight as I can. And then tie it one more time. Okay. We'll take a break and then do the last step.